Hey everybody, this is Gradigy with a Sinestro core figure update because I got a few new figures from some trades online. As you can see, I've just got the first ones that I did laid out here. I'm just going to go over them. It's the main hunters, a generic fig basically. Arquilo, the drill sergeant of the Sinestro corps. Liza Drac, the keeper of their book. I can't remember the name offhand, but it's somewhat like their book, the Green Lantern's Book of Oa. Amon Sewer, who is Abin Sewer's father, the person who gave Green Lantern Hal Jordan his Green Lantern ring. Superman Prime, the Superman from, I believe it's Earth Prime, and that's why he's got that name. He came from a planet where he was the only superhero. And then Yellow Lantern is just Hal Jordan's Bizarro. But I've already done all those, and I'll put the link to that video in the sidebar in case you didn't see it. And then a couple that you already knew I had. It came in the trades video. I got the Grodd LE and the Sinestro figure from Crisis, and I'm just going to go over them a little bit again real quick. Because in case you didn't know that they were in that video, this will make it a little bit more clear. We'll just go over Grodd first. He's actually really good. I really like Grodd. He's got nice stats. 8 movement with a running shot, 11 attack, 17 defense, and 3 damage with Outwit. He does have Psychic Blast, so of course the first thing you want to do is use the Psychic Blast attack and then try to outwit whatever's left on him, because they may lose it. He's got oh no, I'm sorry, he does not have Psychic Blast. He gets it later down the dial. That's not part of his white box. Sorry. His white box is Barrier, Range Combat Expert, Super Strength, and Telekinesis. So it's a little bit more than just Psychic Blast. And you kind of don't want to push him unless you have to, because that's a pretty good power set in all honesty. And as soon as you push him, he loses his running shot. No stats go down besides his movement, but he does lose running shot and gets flurry and becomes obviously you want him to maybe be a little bit more up close, and you won't be able to utilize his 8 range. And then 2 more clicks in, or another click, he loses his invulnerability, and he loses an attack. And then another click, he gets Barrier, Force Blast, and Plasticity. And if you are going to try to make him a melee figure at that time, which isn't bad, but I would suggest against it still. But I mean, if you did, he does eventually get Pulse Wave to help with the damage, as you can see. Because he gets kind of low there at the end on damage. He gets down to 2. But the cool thing about his Force Blast is that whenever you use Force Blast, let's say it was against Sinestro, if you Force Blast Sinestro back, you can immediately put barrier tokens between the 2 figures as a free action. Now, what I would suggest doing, if you have the feat card and with print and play, obviously you do, you get the Whirlwind feat card, and you can actually distribute the Force Blast that you roll on the D6 between everyone adjacent to your figure, and that actually gives you a much wider variety of where you can put the barrier tokens. Because if you do it right and you Force Blast away 3 people, you can actually put barrier tokens all around this side of your character, because then at least I think just one of them has to be between Grodd and the target of the Force Blast. That has to be blocked, so you only have to put 1 between him and his target. But if you put 3, if you use Whirlwind and knock away 3 of them, then of course you can just circle all around him. And then we come to Sinestro. Well, let's finish up his dial, I guess. That might be a good idea. What do you think? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So he's 9 clicks deep, 161 points, 8 range. He does get willpower at the end, so he's definitely pushable. The pulse wave helps. If you really wanted to, but I wouldn't suggest it, I guess you could put Nova Blast on him. I've never heard anyone doing that. It really wouldn't be that useful with 2 damage, in all honesty. Unless you were just really desperate and wanted to try it and see how it went. He does keep respectable attack values even towards the end. He never goes below an 8, but for 161 points, I would hope not. So let's move on to Sinestro here. It looks like this video is going to be a 2-parter. He's actually really, really nice, and I wish he had a white box starting out that gave him willpower, but he doesn't. He has, I mean, his beginning stats are pretty nice for 146 points. 10, 10, 18, 3 with 10 range. And his movement is face teleport and running shot. Now, some people may think you can, but you cannot use those in conjunction. So that doesn't mean he can running shot through a wall and then blast somebody. Initially, whenever I saw that, that's what I thought, and that's wrong. And then his other white box on his attack is Energy Explosion, Psychic Blast, and Telekinesis. So it's him that has Psychic Blast on his white box. So that's really nice, starting out. The only thing I don't like about him, and I'll just go ahead and say it now, is that as soon as you click him, he loses an attack, and he's down to 9. For 146 points, that's not fun to see. He only has toughness, but eventually he loses toughness, but he gains energy shield deflection, toughness, and willpower. So really the big difference between his first click and his second click, or his first click and his third click on defense, because if you're shooting him at range, he's still going to have that 18 defense, is that he has willpower. So that's kind of nice. I think I would rather just give him willpower from the beginning, because you're not going to be able to push him without losing that 9 attack, or without losing that 10. So that kind of hurts. And then he kind of alternates between he starts off with Perplex, and then he goes to Outwit, and then Perplex again, and then he gets another white box while he has Pulse Wave and Face Teleport. And it gives him Energy Explosion and Ranged Combat Expert. Now, the nice thing about his Energy Explosion on his white box, is that his Energy Explosion deals penetrating damage, which can be nice, because I've never really liked Energy Explosion because it seemed really situational. And it varies from character to character on how good it can be. But he's only got 1 lightning bolt, so it's not the best in the world for him. But since it's penetrating damage, it's actually pretty nice. So you want to get that in there as often as possible. But as soon as he hits those kind of clicks, he starts just going down. He does become a much more melee-based character. As you can see, he gets charge, poison. He still keeps the penetrating energy explosion and ranged combat, though. I'm not sure when that will come in handy if you're in melee, but he immediately loses. I mean, he doesn't immediately, but he loses it pretty quick for a much more melee-based power, which is exploit weakness. So, and he's got that kind of click for 2, and he loses, and then he loses movement, and then he dies. So for 146 points, I mean, there are worse ways to spend 146 points. They could have made him better. They could have given him willpower. The whole dial would have been nice. I mean, he's got toughness, the whole dial. Why not give him willpower? Or at least, majority of the dial, which it's not. It's only 3 out of 8 clicks. Does he have it? So, And the cool thing about him is that he's got Sinestro and Green Lantern Corps keywords, so he can go on either one. And a good feat card for him to use is Opportunist. If he's at the end of your turn, if he doesn't have any action tokens, you give him an Opportunist token, and you can use those tokens to give him +1 attack, and you can use up to 4. So we'll touch on that later in the second video. So I'll see you there.